Hey everybody, it's Mike Johnson in the audio section of PWInsiderElite.com as my cell phone goes crazy. It is the Raw postgame show for the episode that aired on Monday, October 6th, 2014, a.k.a. The Rock Takes Brooklyn. Because The Rock showed up, he took Brooklyn, kicked the crap out of everything else that was on that show, and after watching the Gator fight the Bull, boy, did we need something fun on that show. And The Rock came through in spades. Total ace. Controlled that whole segment like he was a boss. Great stuff out of The Rock. Rest of the show, in my opinion, very much a been there, done that sort of feel. We'll talk about it as we go forward. So, obviously, before we do that, thank all of you for your support of PWInsiderElite.com. Halloween season is upon us. One of my favorite times of the year. I'm a big Monsters and Goblins fan. And I don't know what the Monsters and Goblins writing the show have been thinking lately. Because there's certainly a been there, done that, also ran sort of feel to Monday Night Raw. And just the WWE product in general the last couple of weeks. There's a great malaise over it. And unfortunately for them, this is one of the trickle-down effects of their reliance on part-timers. Now, I know I just praised The Rock coming back, and yes, I loved it, and I suspected he would be there once I heard he was in New York, because the timing was so perfect. He's in Manhattan, Brooklyn's 20 minutes away. They could slip him in and out with no problem, but I didn't know for sure, and I do know that there was nothing about The Rock in last night's script at all. None of the drafts of the script mentioned The Rock. There were no lines for The Rock in that script. Nothing about The Rock coming out and confronting Rusev. None of that. But when you look at WWE right now, Brock Lesnar is the WWE champion. When he's around, there's a level of danger. There's an aura of we don't know what's going to happen. Something could go down. The Rock shows up. 15,000 people have an orgasm at once going, holy crap, this is awesome. And The Rock just pisses out charisma to a ridiculous degree. And there's all this electricity. And the room goes boom! And then when he's gone, it's boom. The electricity's gone again. The Undertaker shows up. Huge aura there. Even though the last appearance against Brock Lesnar was not the classic that the last sort of 5-6 years have been for The Undertaker. And when those guys show up, it's boom. You know it's on. Jericho comes in. Rob Van Dam comes in. Boom. Big reaction. Old stalwarts. You know they're going to have some solid matches. But I really think the reaction to The Rock, and The Rock is 1 in a million. Other than Steve Austin coming back, which is certainly a possibility in the next year or so, no one is going to get that sort of electric reaction out of that crowd. I don't think Hulk Hogan, even in Brooklyn, New York, would have gotten that reaction that The Rock got last night. However, when you start doing that stuff, there is, a danger of, and it's very similar to Smoky Mountain Wrestling back in the day. There was, and if anybody hears any drilling, the apartment below me is apparently doing construction. They do this as I record, so I apologize. And I don't know what I can do other than go down there and yell at them, so I'm not going to do that. But Smoky Mountain Wrestling, towards the end of their run, they would bring in The Undertaker, Randy Savage, guys like that, Shawn Michaels, as special attractions on bigger shows. And when they brought them in, the crowds went up. However, when those special attractions were brought in, it made the regulars seem a little less like major stars, so when the WWE level talents were not around, the crowds would die down a little bit, and then it was a law of diminishing returns. They would bring someone in, the crowds would go up, and every time it would go down a little bit more. And that was certainly a factor that hurt Smoky Mountain Wrestling the last year of its life. WWE can only have these guys coming back part-time so many times before you raise the awareness and the interest level, and then it's like, oh. And every time the crowd goes, oh, the interest level drops down a little bit, and the fans are losing their interest in, let's say, a Roman Reigns, a Seth Rollins, a Bray Wyatt, a Dean Ambrose, and so forth, because You raise their interest level so much that, oh, now we're just back to the regular guys. And, well, the regular guys are the guys that you need to carry the load of your brand. And I have written about this and screamed about this and bitched about this for years, that I never understood why they weren't using the platform of WrestleMania with the part-timers and using them to get more attention on the full-timers, your Sheamuses, your Daniel Bryans, your CM Punks at the time, to raise them into a level of media awareness so they became the next generation of stars. WWE, yes, they have put guys in the main event. Dean Ambrose is a great example of that. Seth Rollins is a great example of that. But have they become talents that have become so entrenched in WWE that they are at the upper echelon, top tier of the company? In 1996, when Hall and Nash left, and Bret Hart left in 97, and Shawn Michaels went down to injury, more or less, WWE had a build-up from within. Steve Austin, top guy. The Rock, top guy. Now, those guys are... Steve Austin, the timing was right for him in every way, shape, and form. The Rock took to pro wrestling like a duck in water, and then once he really found himself as a personality, boom, he was off like a lightning bolt. Mankind, Triple H, good timing on each of them. They moved up. But if Hall and Nash and Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were still there, sure, they might have worked with these guys, but do you think the focus would have been on Triple H or Mankind when we've got Bret Hart in the locker room? Probably not. And I think that's part of the issue here, is that WWE starts to put some attention on these guys, and that is, spotlight goes to the left, and, you know, it's not only about showcasing these guys and putting them in main event matches, but it's about making them feel and be presented as important as the part-timers. If Brock comes back and has a face-off with Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins beats Brock, all right, so now he's gotten the rub. But if, Paul Heyman has now warned Seth Rollins, you tried once, but don't try it again, and then the next time they're around, all the focus is on Brock and Seth Rollins is the guy in the background, they have failed at their attempt to make Seth Rollins a bigger, better star. And there's no excuse for that, because some of these guys are very talented. And while I love the Rock stuff, loved it, Rusev, you could make an argument that he should not have been showing his ass to the Rock. He should not be showing his ass to anybody. And perhaps the Rock is going to wrestle Rusev at some point. I don't know. No one has told me that. However, when you've got Rusev, the unstoppable monster, and the Rock goes, you're bigger, you're better than everybody in the locker room, and then 5 minutes later he's beating the crap out of Rusev, by virtue of the Rock's statement, plus what the Rock just did, you've now just crapped on that entire locker room, whether you meant to or not. And that's a dangerous thing, because right now, WWE is in a very precarious position. They have changed a lot of their business models. They are pushing forward with the network model. The pay-per-view model obviously is dying bit by bit. They need all of their assets to be presented as strong as possible. And quite frankly, there are times where they don't do that because they're so concerned about the short term, whether it's the next WrestleMania or the next guest appearance or the next big crossover deal. And they have to be extremely careful that, yes, and I talked about this last week on the No Name Show, it's great you promote all these other things, but your core business is not very strong. So basically, they need to do some DDP yoga on their core business, because right now, that core needs to be tightened up. And hey, The Rock was great for a big pop. The Rock was great for an awesome segment. And trust me when I say this, it was far and away the best thing on Monday Night Raw last night. But if you're going to sacrifice if you're going to have one great segment to make everybody piss their pants and think, wow, this was tremendous. I cannot believe The Rock was in Brooklyn. Holy crap, so cool. At the expense of your other characters, at the expense of your long-term outlook, that is a problem. Now, it could just be, it was a case of timing, and at the last second they were like, hey, we can get Rock here. Let's do this. Boom. And Rusev was a big heel, and Rock could play off of them and do some funny stuff. That's all fine and good. But if you do that over and over and over again, and we've seen evidence that they do indeed do this at WrestleMania shows where the part-timers come in they end up in the main event, and they take away that positioning and, quite frankly, that money from the guys that are there full-time. You're also telling the audience that, hey, these guys over there who have gone off to make movies or fight in UFC, and they've left you behind, they're more important than the guys that are still here. And there's something fundamentally wrong with that on every level. It's great to have those guys. It's great to use them and have them work over other guys. But at the same time, you've kind of got the pyramid inverted and the tips at the bottom. And the guys who are working their ass off and who mean the most to you are on top. And when you turn a pyramid upside down, sooner or later it's going to tip over and fall. So I hope WWE figures out the best way to get it turned up and to utilize the assets, even their part-time assets. Because I had no problem with The Rock being there. I don't even have a problem with the fact that he beat the crap out of Rusev, except for the fact that if they're not going to do something out of that to make money with Rusev and The Rock, then what was the point? It was just to satisfy ego and to pop the crowd. And quite frankly, that's as silly as an independent promoter booking a guy that he himself wants to wrestle and get put over by his old hero. It doesn't do anything for the business. It doesn't do anything for the talent. It doesn't do anything for the fans. And, yeah, that little snippet was cool. And, hey, we're going to get a lot of attention in mainstream media, and it's going to trend on Facebook and Twitter, and people are going to talk about it. That's all well, fine, and good. David Arquette got a lot of attention, too, for winning the WCW title. Look where WCW is.